So let's begin in retrospect of Game 4 of the Newcomers tournament in Offworld Trading Company. This was round number 4. First thing I look at, it's Glass Colony, but glass is half priced, electronics are double, so that would go against me wanting to found Nomad. Would be, if electronics weren't double, a pretty good Nomad spot over here. You've got a high and a medium that you could connect to a low. Besides that, there is a spot kind of here. You could get away with a scientist here, possibly. You've got a bit of water and a bit of steel, maybe some nearby carbon. Silicon's a bit far away, however. And then you have this spot up here, which would be a great expansive or robotic spot. This is where I end up founding as a robot. So let's go through this reverse auction quite quickly. The reason I want to found a robot is because there's no good water. There's this water, but it's not great. So I'd rather not have to worry about life support in the mid-game, because I won't have much access to water over here. So the first person founds over here, which is great, which means I can found over here and get the extra claim later in the game from not founding first. I'm kind of confused with how I'm going to place my starting tiles. I start out claiming this tile. I decide to move over here. I again start to claim this tile, but think better of it and decide just to claim these two double lows, because these are both iron and aluminum tiles, which is awesome. And I go into 3 steel, and then I go for a carbon over here. I figure I can sell some of this carbon, maybe use it later, who knows. So that's what I do for the first HQ. We've got another robot over here. We've got an expansive down here. Later in this game, I'm also kind of thinking, okay, I can kind of go into this geotherm and maybe do geothermal borehole with it, maybe some superconductor stuff. That's always fun to do with robot, I find. So yeah, let's just get through HQ2 here real quick. There's not much that goes on. I think I'm buying my electronics as I can. I upgrade, and I believe I go into a pair of electronics factories here, and yeah, I plan to go into this geothermal vent. I do make a bit of a mistake here. I think I go for the Goon Squad first instead of just starting building the geothermal, so that way it can be finished sooner. You'll see here, yeah, by the Goon Squad and Goon Squad up my geothermal tile. It would probably be best to start building the geothermal and then goon it, because there aren't dynamite, so it's not going to get blown up while it's building. And if I had started building the geotherm first, it would probably almost be done at this point. I see an adrenaline boost go off, and I see it over here, and I figure I'd like to hit that with the black market, but I don't really have enough money coming in to try and both get my upgrade in a reasonable time, as well as attack this adrenaline boost, so I don't worry about it. And here, the expansive grabs these water tiles, so that makes me less inclined to want to ship the water even more. I started selling a bit of carbon. I am using a bit of carbon with the electronics factories, but it's not much. Same with silicon. I do buy an adrenaline boost and boost out my geothermal, though I'd have to watch carefully, but I don't think I pay through all of my debt this game, except until maybe the very end of it, which is kind of funny. I feel like, anyway. So yeah, here I'm just waiting on getting the rest of the steel that I need. And here I try to make a bit more power money by turning off some of my buildings, and then I think better of it, and it's like, okay, aluminum's high. And it's like, okay, I figure I'll just upgrade and then start producing steel for my next HQ upgrade, because steels was what I was lacking in the previous HQ upgrade, so I just turned them all back on and think better of it. Here I get hit by an EMP, which is fine. I try to core sample some water. I get really lucky here with this high core sample. So I have a high water tile very close to my HQ. Later you'll see me try to core sample some more water around this tile, but I don't get so lucky, which is unfortunate. I also go into a couple of farms, start making some of that food money, and I also go for a patent lab. The reason I build my patent lab next to these machine shops instead of next to my HQ is so that way I'll eventually want to transition this patent lab into a optimization center. Though probably it would just be better to build it next to my HQ to get so it's easier to rotate later. In terms of my base setup, these electronics factories should probably be over here behind my HQ, so that way the EMPs are a bit harder to target, but I do get hit by quite a few EMPs, but it doesn't hurt me too much. I don't feel like, I mean, it is annoying, but eventually I do get thinking machines and don't have to deal with the EMPs being as painful. So once again, I'm kind of just waiting to try and get the upgrade materials, and this is a part where actually having turned off those buildings earlier hurt me, because now these steel mills aren't automatically turning themselves off like this one is. So that's annoying. I do eventually manually turn them off. And so that way I stop burning as much power money. Yeah, there I go, turning them off. Here I start going for thinking machines. I figure I'm getting hit by quite a few MPs. There aren't many other patents at the moment. I mean, I would like superconductor, but this geothermal isn't yet connected to my HQ, so superconductor wouldn't do much yet. So I figure thinking machines, because I've been hit by quite a few black market items. And here I goon up this steel mill. I think thinking ahead and going for an Offworld there, but I should have instead put it either on this metal mine, because this metal mine is kind of in the center, and if an EMP were to be targeted, that's probably where you would want to target it. There are spies, so it can be avoided. Or I should have put it on my patent lab to try to prevent this exact thing happening in Mutiny. I don't ever spy out, I guess, yeah, I don't spy my own patent lab, which may be something I could have done. You'll see what I end up doing here eventually, and I'll kind of explain it when we get to it. Barely making net on my power. So here I can upgrade to HQ5. I decide to wait a bit, and I eventually put another metal mine here, trying to get some more aluminum coming in, because aluminum's profitable right now. And here I EMP'd my own patent lab, because I don't know what the other players are patenting. I do know what Drakens was patenting, because I did spy out his patent lab, but I didn't spy out my own patent lab, and so I decided to EMP my own patent lab. However, I didn't put the EMP right on top of the patent lab, I put it next to it, so this is where I had targeted. So it's not going to be frozen for the full duration. I think it's 90 seconds. I don't know exactly how long EMPs last at the center, but this way I prevent them from using the patent lab for a while, so I can hopefully get the patents that I want. So that's why I had done that. I kind of glance at Pleasure Dome. I figure I'll bid on it a little bit, but I don't feel like grabbing VR this game. There are 2 robots, so it's not going to be extremely valuable. Here another EMP comes down, and this is where I would love having thinking machines, because these 4 buildings would have half duration, and it looks like, yeah, that was the center tile, that metal mine. So if this goon was won over, the EMP wouldn't have landed. I go into some electrolysis reactors in an optimization center next to my geothermal vent. I plan, after grabbing thingy machines, my plan was to go for geothermal borehole and superconductor and exploit that. And here Mr. X starts buying into Dimmy. It would probably have been better for him to either buy into me or Drakens. Mr. X buying into Dimmy pretty much is what wins me the game, because these 2 start focusing on each other. Here I boost out my patent lab to try and grab at least the very 3 patents that I want: superconductor, borehole, and thinking machines. Some of the time on this boost is wasted. I do eventually get nanotech. I figure it's just a good patent to have. And the patent for nanotech is going to cost me 7k. Scrapping the patent lab's going to gain me 10k, so I net 3k off that patent, grabbing it before scrapping the patent lab. I start defending myself here, some more EMPs raining down on my territory, but I've finished thinking machines at this point, so it's not as bad as it could have been. I eventually replace those 2 electrolysis reactors with another chemical plant and another optimization center. This again kind of goes with, maybe this would have been better next to my base, because I already do place 2 optimization centers next to my HQ. So it may have been better in the long run, because this building kind of becomes useless out here later, to have it next to my HQ, but I don't think it ends up being too big of an impact, because I do use it as a patent lab for a while, and then as a optimization center for another while, so. Here, it's kind of unfortunate I don't have a source of silicon. Silicon would be very valuable, but it's all the way over here, and it's only in low. I could try core sampling, I guess. Some silicon somewhere. There's some sand here, so maybe I could get one there. Another EMP lands on my territory. It was the same person. You see, my buildings are both overloaded and EMP'd. It was the same person who did both, which I found kind of odd at the time. You should wait for one to finish before you throw the other, or vice versa, or something. Because they're overlapping and using each other's duration. And then the circuit overload doesn't really do much because power is so cheap. And I'm also generating a nice surplus of power. But as you see, even with superconductor and geothermal borehole, I have yet to pay through my power, or have yet to pay through my debt. I do decide to grab financial instruments as well. I figure, okay, we got someone in B, maybe someone in A, they might both go lower, so I decide, what the heck, grab it real quick. I think my patent lab may have also been still boosted when I started doing that, but I started optimizing, optimize some oxygen, it looks valuable. I'll rotate and do some electrolysis reactors later. Optimize chems, spending chems to be optimizing, and they're worth a bit. I'm not selling these electronics because I know I'm going to go into some Offworlds. 50k launches with 75k cost, so 1.5 launches almost exactly to pay for the Offworld. And here I see Mr. X builds his first Offworld, and then I decide to throw a circuit overload just to pop his goon, and he throws it back on me, but power costs $5, so I don't particularly care about that. I could have scrapped this geothermal plant sooner. I do have nanotech, so I get all of the materials back, and it ends up just kind of sitting here doing nothing. I do have this 1000 iron Unfortunately, that's also where my aluminum's coming from, and aluminum is worth something, so can't really do much about that. And here, Dimmy starts buying into Mr. X, and this is what probably really seals the game for me, I feel like. I end up winning this, and I feel like that is the reason. The fact that Dimmy is buying into Mr. X. Because it allows me to just have this build-up time that I need. And you see here, I end up going into this third optimization center as a non-elite. I mean, it's fine. I see that Mr. X boosts his Offworld. I decide to pop the goon that was on it. Or no, I believe I mutinied it, and then he mutinied it back. Well, no, I haven't mutinied yet. I don't know why it was defended there. I thought. Anyway, so I mutiny it. Bullets boosted, try to make the money off of it. He eventually ends up mutinying it back, but that's okay. I'm going to be building my own off-worlds here shortly. You'll see I do build that off-world in this tile. It may have been better long-term in this game to build my off-worlds next to each other. I end up building my other off-world over here, but if I build them next to each other, I can boost them both and be really greedy. But that ends up not being too big of a thing, I feel like. Triple chemicals, yeah, I do eventually scrap out that geothermal plant, replacing it with a chemical refinery, making some chemical money, optimizing food some more, because foods are the expensive launches. I do cancel that optimization because food wasn't as valuable as it was at the time, and I switched into 3 electrolysis reactors instead of the farms, so that's why I canceled that optimization. And you see I still have a little bit of debt. I don't think I ever pay this all the way off, which is kind of funny, I feel like. I decided to move my farm. I scrapped one of my optimization centers. I feel like there are many more optimizations I want to do. I could maybe optimize steel once or twice, and maybe glass a couple times. But I scrapped one of my optimization centers, build a farm here. I boost my Offworld, and someone bought a goon I saw there. I thought it was me. I do eventually buy a goon and re-goon this. I think it's here. Yeah, I goon it, so I have the gooned boosted Offworld, make me very decent 54k launch profits. Still 80k. I should be building my second Offworld here shortly. Or no, this is where I buy into Drakens. This is also the other thing that I think allows me to win this game, is that Drakens decides to upgrade to HQ 5 just a little bit ago. You see here in the log, before defending themselves, well, people have a fair bit of money, and I'm able to get a easy majority buy on them, and I end up getting most of their stock as well. While Mr. X and Dimmy over here are still fighting amongst each other. And so there I get the majority buy, and I continue buying into Drakens, because I figured that they're going to be a profitable subsidiary. I guess I put down my second Offworld first before I do that, though. Build this line of electronics factories and this line of farms, so my placement's kind of awkward. It may have been better if I could have built my off-worlds both here, but I already gooned this tile, so I didn't want to put that goon to waste. And so this is where this building over here is kind of just rotting away. I could scrap it and get the materials back, which I should have done, but yeah, this tile, I guess I could put like a solar panel on it or something. It's just kind of sitting here not doing anything. And here, Dimmy mutinies my Offworld. I guess I didn't know who it was, but instead of mutiny my own Offworld back, you see I do have a mutiny. I decide to wait and mutiny this Offworld, Mr. X's Offworld, because this mutiny is only going to last 60 seconds because of thinking machines instead of 120 seconds. I also buy up another EMP. And Dimmy does start buying into me here. I defend myself, and I bought the rest of Dragon stock, but I decided to mutiny Mr. X's because I'll get his for 120. So for a while, I will have, if he hadn't mutinied it back, I will have had 3 Offworlds instead of just having 2. So that would have been better for me, but that ends up not happening, but that's fine. Even with Superconductor and Geothermal Borehole, I'm not making power money, but I wasn't there for a while. Because I had both Offworlds, but now that I only have 1 Offworld, I am making power money, but still not quite enough. I start stockpiling money. I again boost my Offworld, because I figure mutinies are 110k, so no one's most likely going to buy a mutiny, and EMPs are 50k, so I guess someone could buy a EMP and EMP my Offworld, but I figure I'm fairly safe even though it isn't gooned. So I figure I'll just make some money faster because adrenaline boosts were only 30k when I had bought that one. And I do make a little bit of money from financial instruments, and it paid for itself eventually. So it may not have been worth it at the time, but I feel like the way this game went, it made me, I don't know, 10k. It didn't make me much. Here I tried core sampling. You see I core sampled next to my water. This iron didn't used to be here. There was a chance for it to be water. It didn't end up being water, unfortunately. I decide to buy out Mr. X, and I was watching someone else go over my game. These games were all broadcast by various streamers, and so I was watching. But they were suggesting that I go after Dimmy instead of Mr. X. My thought process with buying out Mr. X here shortly, which I do, instead of Dimmy, was that Mr. X had the cash lead and the Offworlds. So I figured that if he wasn't bought out, that he would have, he may be able to compete against me cash-wise, whereas I don't feel like Dimmy can, not having the Offworlds. If I had bought Mr. X, or if I had bought Dimmy, I would have had 4 of my stocks and 5 of Mr. X's stocks. So I probably would have been fine, and the game might have gone over faster, but at the time, that's what I was looking at more so, was the fact that Mr. X had a bigger cash lead. And I buy up a stock of Dimmies, which is where my money had gone. And I tried core sampling some more stuff, and I do find another water that I decided to claim. I also claim this tile to make those connected to my HQ so I don't have to ship a tiny bit. I decided to build an electronics factory here because chemicals aren't really worth it. I've got a bunch of chemicals and the price is really cheap, so I figure an electronics factory will do a little bit better there than a chemical refinery. I buy a 50k boost and decide to boost my Offworld again. And I continued by, I built a hacker array over here where this tile used to be. Be a great optimization, 60% optimization center, but I don't really need to optimize anything, unfortunately. I decided to start hacking up chemicals because I've got this stockpile and no one else was in chemicals at the time. EMP comes down, don't really care. My boosted Offworld is EMP'd for 20 seconds. You see here, I sell this stock shortly. I figure at this point I've got cash over him. I have more stocks than he does in me, so I feel safe selling this stock and getting the buy slightly faster. It's not much faster, but still haven't paid all that debt yet. Power did go back up for a little bit there, but my debt had also gone up because of having to pay for these Offworlds. But this game, I decided to just give him the claim. At this point of the game, I'm just kind of waiting for money to come in from my Offworlds. And this chemical hack that I'm doing. So, at this point, I figure the game's already over. I've already won, and so I'm just kind of waiting for the money to come in, so I don't worry about that one extra claim. And yeah, this Draken subsidiary didn't make me much, but it did make me some. We can check in the post game how much it actually made me. Dimmy decides to pay. Dimmy decides to pay 110k for a mutiny on my Offworld. So by doing that, the game was already over when he did that. However, it was a 54k launch. He finished his launch and prevented me from getting a launch off so at the same time, because in this case the mutiny lasts as long as the launch does. So he got a launch off and I didn't get a launch off, so it was essentially an exchange. He spent 110k, he gained 55k, I lost 55k. So it was kind of a net wash in terms of money exchanged, but the game was already over at that point, so I buy out Dimmy. It was a decent game. I got, I think, really lucky with Mr. X and Dimmy going head-to-head instead of Mr. X majority buying me out, because there was a while where I wouldn't have been able to defend myself, I don't think. And then I got the very easy majority buy on Dragons. Dimmy did eventually get one of the 10 stocks in Dragons, but that was fine. So let's look at the balance sheet. So dividend revenue. So I made 200k or so off of Draken sub. Dimmy and myself both split Mr. X evenly, so I figure this is all essentially Mr. X, this income here, and then subtract that, so I made 215k off of Drakens. A little bit of this is off of Drakens because he did have that one stock, but I figure it's close enough that I don't need to worry. I did make 27k off of that financial instruments patent. It was okay. Mr. X made 205k off their two pleasure domes. I think the Draken's AI eventually built the pleasure dome. I don't think this was before they were bought out, though. Black market. I maybe could have done a bit better with the black market. I did okay. The core samples, only one of them did anything for me. The other three that I used didn't give me anything useful. Quite a few adrenaline boosts. Couple mutinies, goons, EMPs, only 2 of them. Optimizations, I had 16 optimizations. I don't feel like there was anything else I should have optimized that game. I never went into glass. Power, I probably didn't really need to optimize, so I got the patents I wanted. Geothermal borehole, superconductor, thinking machines were the big 3. Nanotech was just kind of, I saw that my patent lab scrapping it would have given me more money if I had nanotech than without nanotech, and my patent lab was still boosted, so I decided to do that. So yeah, this was game 4 in the Newcomers tournament. Farewell.